All right, my friends, how y'all doing? I'm here to give you some of the results of last night's Money in the Bank. I'm also going to talk about AEW, and I will talk about the finish of Money in the Bank, the ending of it. Well, to begin with, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view started it last night with the women's ladder match. Women's ladder match that was really, really good. I had a lot of physicality, a lot of emotions, a lot of things that the ladies of wrestling has actually done last night the pay per view. Um, the pay per view, the match itself was won by Bailey. Bailey got on the reached the ladder and retained the briefcase, and she won the contract. One of the matches also that was there featuring was the Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles match for the first time ever for the WWE Universal title. And that particular match I really, really like. It was back and forth, non-stop action. It was a dream match, match of the night. To me personally, it was match of the night. I really, really enjoyed it. AJ Styles did, Seth Rollins did defeated AJ Styles for the WWE title. It wouldn't surprise me if um, they have a rematch. There's gotta be a repeat of this particular match, and it was a very good match overall. Kofi Kingston defeated uh, what's his name, Kevin Owens for the WWE title. He won that match. It was a hard fought match. It was I really enjoy it, and the one many things that I didn't like about the pay per view itself. It had Elias had like a 5 second match, 7 second match with Roman Reigns, which it starts with Elias attacking Roman in backstage. Then he's going to do his concert. Then he gets mad. He wants to leave, and Roman comes back, beats the crap out of him. Before the bell rings, Superman punch, or I think it was spear or Superman punch, and then it's a 1, 2, 3, and Elias loses the match. And one of the other matches that they have featuring there was Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch defended the Raw Women's title against Lacey Evans, and Lacey Evans lost the match. And immediately following that match, as Becky is getting ready to go backstage, Charlotte Flair comes out and says, "Okay, let's have our match right now," because she was gonna pull double duties, defend the Raw and SmackDown's Live Women's title. The Raw and SmackDown's Live Women's title was defended. Becky Lynch defended the SmackDown title against Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte did won the match with the assistance of Lacey Evans, who gave it the woman's right to Becky Lynch while the referee wasn't looking. Charlotte goes for the pinfall, 1, 2, 3. She's the new women's champion. They decide to start beating up Becky Lynch while Bailey walks out and beats the dog out of Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair, and then she decides she's gonna cash in her Money in the Bank contract, and she drops the elbow like a Macho Man style, and she pins Charlotte Flair, and she becomes a new SmackDown Live Women's Champion. Let's see what else did they had last night. It was the men's Royal Rumble. The men's Royal Rumble, the men's ladder match for the Money in the Bank contract. It was supposed to be an 8-man match. It started out being 7-man match because Sami Zayn was assaulted backstage and he was found hung upside down. Everybody thought it was Braun Strowman. It wasn't the case. Braun Strowman said he didn't do it. However, the case of the deal with Braun was that he didn't do it and he didn't do it, and you know Mustafa Ali is about to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. All of a sudden, Brock Lesnar's music hits in. He comes charging in. He pushes Ali off the ladder He sets up the ladder, to grab the briefcase. He grabs it and he becomes Mr. Money in the Bank. And we already know who is he gunning for. He is gunning for Seth Rollins at any point given time to retain his title. That was the end of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. The thing that I didn't like was, the fact that Brock came back to win the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank contract, because of the fact that when Brock was there as a Universal Champion, he was only there on a few Monday Night Raws, and he was there on a few pay-per-views, and he was always winning, and he was always being, put us as the heel and the baddest wrestler in the planet, and like the baddest guy on the planet, and it's virtually impossible to beat him up or to defeat him for the title. Not beat him up, but defeat him for the title. Now it's gonna be worse because he's gonna show up whenever he wants to, and he's gonna catch him whenever he wants to. Well, catching him whenever you want to. That's sort of the whole point of when to catch anyone in the bank contract, because at any point given time. Um, Passing on to different things. It's been brought to everyone's attention, and if you haven't noticed or you're living under a rock, well, that's your fault. But there is a place is called AEW, All Elite Wrestling, and All Elite Wrestling, it is the uh, alternative programming for wrestling now that is going to debut on the fall, where they landed a TV deal with TNT. Now, for those of you wrestling fans that remember TNT for wrestling shows, here's a little bit of trivia. The last time wrestling show went on TNT was in the mid '90s, and it featured three-letter words that literally said it all. It was WCW, where the big boys play, and the WCW Monday Night Nitro and WCW Thunder, which air on Thursday. I think it was Wednesday night. Anyway, the point is that AEW has signed a contract with TNT. They don't know. They don't have a date to. They know it's gonna be debut in the fall. They don't have a date for it yet. They don't want to come. Well, here's the thing. They don't say they want to compete with the WWE, but they said they want to be an alternative to the WWE, which I think, from the point of view of a fan, I think is great. I like it due to the fact that WWE doesn't have to be the only game in town. It could be something else. Now you have All Elite Wrestling. It was TNA, and I will get to that in a second. And I'm going to say why it was TNA. Now it is not. It is All Elite, or AEW, I'm sorry, All Elite Wrestling, and not Total Nonstop Action. And I'm going to tell you why. But they have a solid roster. I think it's 34, 35 people under the roster, featuring wrestlers that I never heard of, but some of them that I have, like Chris Jericho and Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel. Also having guys like Kenny Omega, whom I never seen wrestle, so I cannot speak on. I don't have a take on Kenny Omega. I have seen Cody Rose, who happens to be the owner and co-founder of AEW, and his wife is also there as a business person and also there as a wrestler as well. But some other guys, that I wouldn't even comment on because I don't even know who they are. I have no idea uh, what where they came from. I know that they either come from Ring of Honor or New Japan Pro Wrestling, or Mexico, like AAA, or so somewhere like that. Their top talent, some of them come from the Indies. The top talent, they said that AEW is going to be a promotion that is going to allow creativity for the wrestlers, as in not so much as a script, but allow the wrestlers to have a creative mind with the characters. I don't know how much of that is true or not, but I guess it's part of the new game. It's part of the new platform that what they're trying to build. That they want to be different. They already had a pay per view. It's called All or Nothing, and they have one in Las Vegas, Nevada, and they haven't had a single TV taping yet. Oh, here's the catch: TNT. Now this is from what I heard. TNT will pay the production cost of AEW wrestling on their program. The only time when I heard that only company that got their production costs paid for by the particular network who they had signed a deal with was Ted Turner's TNT because it was WCW. Not because it was WCW, it was because Ted Turner owned WCW and he was, the guy who ran TNT and TBS at the time. So of course, yeah, TNT is going to pay for the cost of production of WCW. Same thing is happening right now with AEW. They're getting their production costs pay by the network that they landed the deal with. Up to this day, WWE has never gotten their production costs paid for, not by the USA Network, not by Spike. They recently signed a deal with Fox. Fox is considering, and demanding that at least 3 million viewers to view their product, which is SmackDown Live. They was going to air started on Fox pretty soon. I think it's a couple of more months or somewhere in November or December. I can't remember when it's going to be set to release yet. What I was going to tell you about TNA, why TNA is not a alternative, not a competitor of the WWE. Here's the reason why. When TNA started it out, and the first I heard of TNA, it was somewhere in, I want to say 2002, and they were promoting a pay-per-view that they were going to do in Australia, featuring AJ Styles, featuring Sting, featuring the wrestlers that I knew. I didn't know who AJ Styles was, but I didn't know who Sting was. But the point is, at the time goes by, they land a TV deal with Spike TV. Now, to land a TV deal with Spike TV, they rent the programs with Spike. They had the promotional deals with Spike. Everything was great. You had the Samoa Joes, the AJ Styles, the Christopher Daniels, Aries, Beer Money Incorporated with Bobby Roode and Cowboy, you know, and everybody, you had a good, solid respawn and a good, solid roster. That you had good wrestlers. That you had Jeff Jarrett, who was the founder of TNA, and wrestling too. Like just like Cody Rhodes is doing with AEW. Point is, they went from having a contract with TNA, I mean with Spike TV, and then they contract got they left Spike TV, and they went to Pop TV, to the Pop channel, I think it was called. And the Pop channel, not everybody knew what the channel was, not everybody got it. I think that they would have done much better if they would have gotten a deal with WGN or with TBS for that matter. Thinking, it's an America's channel. It's a popular channel where wrestling could have been featured. But the point is, I don't run TNA, so I don't, I don't do the booking of who you sign deals with. Then I heard that TNA wrestling was being featured on, I think it was called America's Channel or Channel North America, something like that. And then I lost track of it. As they were doing their stuff with Spike, one day I tuned in to watch TNA Wrestling, and TNA Wrestling is nowhere to be found on their day that they're supposed to be, and they're not on the air. So this is back somewhere in 2006, and I'm talking to some of my friends, and I'm like, hey man, what happened with Impact last night? And they're like, well, they had to cancel the show because one of the wrestlers got hurt or something like that, and so something going down with one of the wrestlers. They couldn't follow up on the storyline. I'm like, you can't cancel tapings or air on the TV airtime because one of your wrestlers did something wrong or because one of your wrestlers didn't show up. I think it had to be like Jeff Hardy or something had happened. I can't remember what it was. But to be honest with you, the biggest mistake with TNA at the I mean yeah with TNA at the time was when they brought in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. Now I don't have a problem with Eric Bishop because Eric Bishop brought in some of the best childhood memories for me because of he was ahead of the WCW, and he started the Monday Night War, and he did the whole thing with the NWO, and that was cool. But you had to take it from my perspective. I started watching wrestling a long, long, long time ago. And I have seen promos, I have seen storylines, I have seen a lot of stuff that I can actually remember. And it was pretty cool because it was a night of, it was like WCW all over again under a different brand, under TNA. Because it was like Ric Flair, Jeff Hardy. You had Ric Flair went straight to the group of guys that he called Fortune, kind of like the Four Horsemen, and you know all kinds of stuff that they did with TNA that that I already seen done with WCW, the hostile takeover when Abyss attacks Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter wants Abyss fired. She has to sign some paperwork instead of Dixie Carter getting her way of getting Abyss fired. He is she signed the paperwork where she's signing away TNA, to Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, and now they were in the show and they started doing these massive groups like I remember it was Immortal, it was Fortune, and it was all kinds of other groups, and then you had Aces and Ace, and you had all kinds of stuff. So when I see things like that, I'm like, well, I seen this movie before. I kind of know how it's gonna end. And then the problem, the biggest deal was, deal breaking for me was when you started recreating. Because whether you want to compete against the WWE on a Monday night, I can care less. It's fun for me. I can switch channels back and forth. But the problem was that you could, like that they started doing that, recreating all things that they should never recreate. I'm gonna give you an example. Back in I think it was 1997, when they had the Montreal screw job when Shawn Michaels would put Bret the Hitman Hart on the sharpshooter. Referee calls for the bell. Bret never tapped, and the whole Montreal screw job comes in about. They did something like that, with Kurt Angle and another wrestler who was involved in the match. I can't remember who it was. And then it was Hogan, looking on ringside. Match starts out. They do the wrestling thing, they started doing their match. And next thing here comes the finish. I think it was a submission. Kurt Angle never tapped out. The referee calls for the belt. And Kurt Angle, the first so that the referee calling for the bell gives it away that, hey man, this is a recreation of the Montreal screw job. But no, then he has to get up and spit on Hogan's face. So they have to do it in the same way that Bret did it on Vince. Which, by the way, when Bret did it on Vince, the spitting on the face wasn't part of the promo. The spitting on the face wasn't part of the finish. The finish wasn't part of the finish because of something else that I will get into it at another time. But the point is that when you start reliving and redoing things that I already seen, Hogan did so many bad things in TNA, and then all of a sudden he's having a match that happens coincidentally to be with Sting as a tag team match against so and so and against this group I can't remember who it was at the time, but it's kind of like sort of like begging Sting to tag him, begging Sting to help him, sort of asking for forgiveness, sort of like the same way how he ran wild for so many years with the NWO, and then he showed up with the black and yellow at a pay-per-view match, somewhere in 1999, sort of again asking for forgiveness of the fans, like forgive me, I'll be good again. So stuff like that. They did wrong. Then after that, whatever booking they did, with TNA, because I lost interested in it. I lost interested in it. But anyway, that was the rundown for the pay-per-view on Money in the Bank. My take on AEW before I leave. My only take on AEW in All Elite, yeah, AEW, is going to be this. There's no problems with AEW saying we want to compete with the WWE. Because the WWE is not the only game in town. So what? You can't handle the competition? So what? Big deal. No problem. Problem that I see personally is that if I don't see a single problem with it. I see that they have a solid roster. I see that I take it back. I don't see a single problem with it. I see that it's all a matter of what day is TNA going to put AEW on the programming schedule, and everything else becomes PR and promos, which is uh, done by them, and social media and all that stuff. So I don't see a single problem with them. I do have a problem, with fans being dumb, going with AEW shirts to a WWE event. Now that is stupid. That's like going with a full-on Burger King jersey and uniform, going to buy a McDonald's, burgers. That is a direct, slap in the face towards the company, but to the company that you represent, to the company that you're at. But other than that, I don't find anything wrong with it. And sometimes, yeah, because WWE is more oriented for children, which is the reason why it's PG. They do ask some fans to turn the shirts inside out. While this one for AEW, they requested them for them to leave. This show was in Tampa, Florida, so I think it was a house show or a Monday Night Raw, something like that. But anyway, look, that's the deal with it. Like it, give me thumbs up if you like this video, and share and show to your friends. Have a good one now. See ya. Bye bye.